All right, folks, it being 7 o'clock, I'm going to go ahead and call this meeting of the Dunn County Board of Supervisors to order. As always, we will begin with the, we don't have the pledge actually on the list, but with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America.
To the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, and if the clerk will call the roll.
Supervisor Lopper is present. Supervisor Breslin is
Excused.
excused. Supervisor Headland is here. Supervisor Score is here. Supervisor Steen is excused. Supervisor Shackleton is present. Supervisor Bjork is here. Supervisor Wilsey is here. Supervisor Quinn
Present.
is present. Supervisor Jetson is here. Supervisor Bashan is here. Supervisor Kinnear here. Supervisor Barrier is here. Supervisor Welsh is here. Supervisor Lyon is here. Supervisor Vogel is here. Supervisor Story is present. Supervisor Vandermeulen is here. Supervisor Burnt is here. Supervisor Morehouse is here. Supervisor Hagan is present. Supervisor Thomas is present. Supervisor Prochnow is here. Supervisor Gilbert is here. Supervisor Larry Bjork here. Supervisor Bauer is here. Supervisor Wolf is here. Supervisor Hartung is here. And Chair McCullough.
Here. All right, next up is approval of the minutes. I would need a motion in a second. Supervisor Morehouse moves. Supervisor Larry Bjork seconds. Any speaking to the minutes? All right, seeing none. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Minutes are approved. Item 4, presentation of petitions, memorials, and other communications. So item A, we have a couple of retirements. This is how we like to see our county employees leave at the end of a long career and happily. Ruth Juliet, DHS Behavioral Health, and Jane Hansen, Admin Finance. And unfortunately, we've had another county employee leave us the hard way. Department of Human Services employee Jenny Haviland passed on April 19th. And we would wish all of our condolences to her family and those who loved her. All right. Public comment. Do we have anyone from the public who wishes to address the board? Seeing none. On to appointments. There are no appointments this month. Report of the county manager, Chris.
All right, you have in your packets, purchase orders are $40,000. Any questions about those? All right, and you also have in your packet a copy of the 2026 budget calendar. That just gives you kind of an overview of when the key decision-making points will be around the development and finalization of the 2026 budget. Historically, for some reason unknown to us, that was always approved by you, but it didn't really seem like it was something that necessarily needed board approval. It wasn't like you were going to change it. There's a certain date we have to be done, and that's kind of that. So if you have feedback about that and want something different to it, I guess we certainly can change that. But the idea was just to give you an idea what the schedule looks like, with the final board approval being the first Monday after the second Tuesday. And no, first Tuesday after the second Monday in November. It's just fun to say that. It's such a ridiculous statement. Okay. And then I'm going to take D, and then I'm going to invite Dan up. D is just to let you know that in your packets also was fairly extensive information about the rules of the board. Last version, Jim is making some changes to that based on the executive committee feedback from the last meeting. The hope is that that'll go in final form to the executive committee in June, and then it will come to you for first reading of an ordinance change in June as well. So do pay attention, or do take some time to read through that, look at that. There's several documents. One is that the completed document as it would be presented with some minor changes that Jim's working on, but the other is then shows you what's changed from what was to what is now. And if you have any questions about that, certainly contact Jim. He would be glad to answer them. And with that, Dan?
So as Chris just told you about our budget calendar, we're going to change it. So the solar geothermal project, I had sent an email off to everyone about that. We received the contract from the company that was going through that, was awarded that contract. After review, we made a recommendation to the facilities committee to not pursue that project, which they approved that recommendation. So at that point, the project stops. So that isn't something that will come back to the board because it never made it out of committee. So along those same lines, we know that the HVAC system in the judicial center needs to be redone. So that is why kind of wanted to bring that back to let you know that the CIP, which would normally be coming to the board at this meeting, is not on your agenda today because we know we're going to have to make revisions to that to figure out how we can manage the HVAC project in likely 2026, but sometime in the near future. So that will be on the agenda for the facilities committee next week, and they will be making some decisions on how that'll come back with the final version of the CIP next month. So, so anyway, we wanted to put that on the agenda. Let's make sure everybody here knew kind of where that process was, and if you have any questions, I can answer them. See any green lights?
It looks like you're off the hook.
All right.
So our next item is reports of departments, but in the interest of letting the Muddy Creek people go, if there's no objection, I would like to bring 10A forward so we can just do the Muddy Creek vote and then let them wander on their way. So are there any objections? Seeing none, we will go on to 10A, Joint Development Agreement for Muddy Creek Solar Project. You have the agreement in front of you. Are there any clarifying questions? Supervisor Larry Bjork.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, most of that is in my district. And seeing that this is our second go around with companies posing and contracting with my neighbors, farmers. It seems like it's absent this time around than when we had Elk Creek in here, that, there was numbers that were given out that in lieu of taxes, this is what Dunn County can expect. And I later learned that most of that is regulated by public service commissions. So, but we haven't heard anything on it, but it might be worth to the citizens of Dunn County. And then the other thing I have is I was going through the information and it lists all the county road and townships roads and everything like that. And Dustin would be the guy that would know the answer to this, but is there a way to rate the tonnage that's traveled on county roads and township roads and determine that would shorten the life cycle of these roads? And are we going to be compensated for, where you can use the roads, but if it, I think you get my point.
I do. So I don't believe that we as a county have any say in the road matter. And I would expect the only road wear and tear to be during the construction phase and not particularly terrible, but that will be as it is. In terms of the exact number, I don't have that, but it will be proportional to the amount of power generated. So I would guess that since we're running about twice the size of oh, is it? I'm sorry. Supervisor Morehouse,
Yes, Chair McCullough. I don't have a page number. I think it's 157 of our packet. $773,500 annually to Springbrook, to the town. $1,011,500 annually for the county. It's in the contract.
thank you, Diane. Yeah, I'm not as on top of things as I might normally be.
Hi, this is Alex Peterson. I don't know if you can hear me in the room.
Yes.
But
Go
yeah,
ahead.
I'll introduce myself first. My name's Alex Peterson. I'm an attorney with the law firm Michael Bess and Friedrich, and I am here on behalf of Muddy Creek Solar. And so I can answer a couple of these questions or clarify them, especially the one we're on right now about the utility aid payments. So the payments are made by the state to the town and county through the utility shared revenue payment program, but they are reflected in an estimate in the agreement just to provide some transparency about what to expect. But one thing I wanted to note is it looks like the agreement that was provided in the packet is a slightly dated version. I sent around an updated version of the draft about a week ago that reflects some changes to the project design that slightly reduces the projected output of the project. And so those numbers those estimates should be slightly decreased in the new version that you'll see, but they're pretty similar. It's $695,500 annually for Springbrook and $909,500 annually for the county. So yeah, I think Jim, I think you should have that in your email. But I sent around a slightly updated red line. Just we're still making some changes to the project design at this point. So.
All right. So mentally pencil those changes in and we will make sure to get the correct version to you, but that's
sorry about that.
relatively minor.
Yeah, I would say it's a non-substantive change. It's really a formula that is used to calculate it based on state law. And so those changes aren't anything we're doing to decrease payments. It's just based on the updated design of the project. That's how it's calculated under the state formula. So it's a non-substantive change from that perspective, just to reflect the updated design, and that design will maybe be tweaked throughout the process. And so it's really just an estimate to reflect what we think the payments would be based on the current design and the state utility shared revenue payment formula. So that's just to clarify that issue there. But that's our best guess estimate of what the payments will be once the project reaches operation. And to address the second issue on the roads, that the agreement actually addresses that issue as well about reparations to roads. It's in section 2. I'm not sure what page of the packet that's in, but essentially it's in section 2 of the agreement, and the agreement discusses the obligation to repair roads to pre-construction conditions. So there's I think you can take a look at some of the language in there, but it should talk about that obligation in the agreement. And so I know that was an issue that was brought up a moment ago. And so section 2F specifically is where you'll see that.
Great. Thank you for the correction.
Yeah.
Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a quick question. Recently saw information where a solar field was basically destroyed by hail, and parts of it then were, whatever's inside of them leaked out. I think there's some acids or something like that. I don't know, but it was contaminating the ground. I guess my question is, if there's a catastrophe of some kind like that, would they be in position to remove it and make sure the ground's safe or whatever?
Without any objection, I'm going to call the Muddy Creek representative up here to answer the more technical stuff.
on?
Yep.
I'm awesome. Also, nice caller, Alex. So I think the post you're looking at, as I had this sent to me from some of our landowners, it's about a solar project in Nebraska that had, so based off this, it's not, when they're claiming that things have dripped into the water, there's no actual claim to it. There's no scientific evidence. It's just people saying it. Also, our panels themselves they're made like a solid state drive, if you know hard drives. So when they crack or break, you have to dip them in acid to get anything in it to come out of it. So we send them back to First Solar. They then have that acid, the proprietary blend of acid. It goes through that and then they can recycle the thing. So if any damage were to happen to these panels, nothing would leak, nothing would come out of it. It would just go back there and we'd put up new panels. That makes sense.
Thank you. Anybody else before? Okay, you're off the hook. All right, so with the updated numbers, I would need a motion in a second. Supervisor Morehouse moves, Supervisor Bashand seconds. Any speaking to the motion? All right, seeing, oh, Supervisor Gary Bjork. Hang on just a sec.
Thank you. Two questions. Are there going to be any farm buildings that will have to be destroyed? And then because we get a tax break on open land that, is not as high as it is for the state, are we going to be losing money or are we going to come out above it?
I believe we will come out very substantially ahead. Supervisor Prochnow is nodding his head as our land expert, so.
Okay. That's my question.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry to steal your thunder, Alex. I know this is your time to shine. But also with the utility aid payment, so not utility aid payment, with the we have a community fund that we set up. So like when the taxes change, your school district will get less money. So we put a community fund in there to make sure we make up for that money over the 25 years that it's there. So the schools will be getting what they should be getting.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Yeah, we currently have agreements signed already with the Menominee area and Elk Mountain school districts for those community payments.
Thank you. Okay, second call for debate. Supervisor Larry Bjork.
We were just wondering if you could restate the motion.
So the motion is to approve the agreement that is in your packet with the updated numbers that they just gave us. Supervisor Gilbert.
Thank you, Chair. Does this actually require our approval? I'm just curious. As I
Absolutely
understand
not.
it, we can't stop it.
No, this is entirely them entering into a good faith agreement to do the best they can to satisfy the needs and wants of the county within the space of their project. They don't have to do this at all.
Okay, I was just checking. That's what I
Yep.
thought.
Happy to answer the question, Supervisor Gilbert. Any further speaking? All right, then we are ready to vote. You have the matter before you. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. Agreement is set, and you can wander off if you would like to. All right, moving back.
Thank you, folks.
You're welcome. Thank you. Moving back to item 8, reports of departments. Oh my, I am tripping over my tongue this evening. We will begin with the county clerk, Andrew.
Hello. I'm your Dunn County Clerk, Andrew Mercell. You usually hear from me pretty frequently about various things related to the elections. So I thought for this particular annual report, I'd highlight some of the things that the county clerk's office does throughout the year that are not election related. So the first one is in 2024, we had the new electoral maps. I can't believe that only was like a year ago. But if you recall, On February 19th, Governor Evers signed a bipartisan agreement to establish new legislative maps, changing the districts pretty significantly. That meant a pretty decent change for us here in Dunn County, but it did make things a little bit more contiguous. If you recall, there was a lawsuit filed with the state Supreme Court that basically said that the maps needed to be redrawn. And as a result, we had ended up with new electoral maps. We did a tried to do a pretty intense education training session where we sent out the postcard on the right-hand side, was put in a postcard form, sent to all the voters in Dunn County, letting them know your assembly and your Senate districts have changed. Here are your current representatives. Here are the people running for those seats in the November election. So that was one of the big projects that we did. In addition to that, we also got some new county clerk staff last year. If you recall, you very graciously allowed an additional person to join the county clerk staff team, which was the assistant deputy county clerk. We ended up hiring Jess Basil, and Sue Brathel is the new deputy county clerk. We had 51 people apply for the deputy county clerk position and 27 for a half-time assistant deputy county clerk position. It was an amazing pool of individuals, and our human resource team did an amazing job helping us filter through those to make sure that we could get the most qualified individuals. And we're incredibly lucky to have them. Sue had come with us to us from 12 years of experience in the county clerk's office in Pierce County. I'm sorry, Jamie, the county clerk in Pierce office, but I'm not that sorry because Sue's great. In addition, she was also a municipal clerk for the village of Baldwin before she went to the county. And then Jess Basil had been doing election work in our town of Sheridan in northern Dunn County for a number of years. So we're incredibly lucky. That was a change in 2024. I wanted to make sure that we honored the professional municipal clerks during Municipal Clerk Week last year. It's usually the first full week of May is always Professional Municipal Clerks Week. And so of our 30 municipal clerks, I wanted to make sure they all got a little proclamation thanking them for their service because we are an amazing team that has to make sure that in addition to running the elections, we also work very closely to make sure that when we're apportioning taxes, the municipal clerks are the ones that are reporting their tax dollars to our county treasurer. We work incredibly closely with the municipal clerks on many different things. So we wanted to make sure we honored them. That was my honor to be able to do that. Last year, I also got to serve as the county representative, the voting delegate for Dunn County at the National Association of Counties Conference. It's an incredible honor. It was a great opportunity. There was a good Wisconsin delegation. Whenever we go to these conferences, I'm always amazed that the Wisconsin people always seem to end up sitting at the same table. It's always fun. Birds of a feather. So that was really great. Also, we celebrated 150 years of library service last year in Dunn County. So I'd reached out to Chair McCullough and said, let's do something to make sure that we're honoring the 4 libraries that we have here. And so we had a little celebration at the Menominee Public Library at Music Over Monoman. You can see Chair McCullough, Laura McCullough, who had served at the time as the city council rep. Elisa Bragg is the Colfax Public Library Director, and then Supervisor Kinnear, who's on the Library Planning Committee as well. I'm sorry, the Menominee Library Board. No, the foundation, thank you. And so we were great. And Supervisor Lyon joined us there as the Menominee Public Library Board representative for the county. And so we did that to make sure we can honor the amazing work that the libraries do. As you recall, the county clerk's office always makes sure that the funding that you approve gets paid out to those libraries. So we work really closely with them. I got to be part of a League of Women Voters election integrity panel before the November election. It was great. I was joined by Mary Strand on the left. She is the Springbrook Town Clerk. Shabana Lundeen, who's the Polk County Clerk. And then she's kind of hidden in the back, but that's Sue McDonald. She's the Eau Claire County Clerk. Talking about the ways in which we run elections here in Wisconsin to make sure that we keep voter integrity at the peak of importance. I also got to host a school tour of Dunn County. It was really fun. I got to work with the departments and take these school children around. It was the first time I'd ever gotten a chance to do that. And it was really, really great. We've been talking about now for the next year, if there are like 3rd or 4th grade classes that want to come from our main school districts to be able to learn a little bit more about county government. So that was super fun. I had the kids all vote on whether they liked pizza or chicken McNuggets as their favorite food item. So they got to vote and cast their little ballot in the county clerk's office. Pizza won significantly. There you go. And then, of course, I can't not talk about election statistics. I'm a geek that way. I love talking about it. So I wanted to show that in the last 10 years, you can see in the kind of orangish color there, those are the gubernatorial general election years. And then in green, those are the presidential general election years. You can see typically we have fewer voters in the gubernatorial general election years. But you can see in 2024, we had the largest election we've ever held in Dunn County in its history. That continues to be a trend every 4 years, which is wonderful because we're seeing that much more participation and people being engaged in their civic duties. When I had most recently gotten a chance to be abroad, I was talking with some Australians where they have mandatory voting. Everyone is mandatorily required to vote in Australia. And they had all voted by absentee ballot while we were abroad. So it was really interesting to talk about that. What makes Wisconsin unique, though, and I just want to talk about this because there's many things, but the unpredictability that we have in the state of Wisconsin is one of the things that gets us the most amount of national attention. And the example I'm going to give you is that the change from November 2024 to April of 2025, only about 5.5 months difference. Dunn County, for example, had the closest margin in the Wisconsin Supreme Court race in the entire state of Wisconsin. We went 16-point shift from sending President Donald Trump back to Washington to a 16-point shift to the left by April. That's really kind of unique. It also shows that we had the closest percentage between that particular race. There were only 2 counties that passed Dunn County in that shift in the opposite direction in the state of Wisconsin. So a 16-point shift is pretty significant. And you can see here's the overall shift in the state of Wisconsin. So this is one of the reasons that Wisconsin gets so much attention, especially every 4 years. Just a FYI, the April 2025 election was the largest spring election we've ever had. We will have a Wisconsin Supreme Court race every spring for the next 5 years. So expect that trend to continue. This might have been a unique year in the attention that it received, but it is interesting nonetheless. The other reason I want to mention this is that Wisconsin is so unique and Dunn County made such a significant shift that I've been asked by the Election Science Reform and Administration group to come speak at their conference in Florida in June. They want to know what's going on in Wisconsin. So this is a national conference that I've been asked to attend with the Dane County Clerk and the Marathon County Clerk and present a little bit on why Wisconsin is so unique. So that's kind of the overall component. Are there any questions that you have based on the 2024 year in the County Clerk's office?
It's like we were a quiet bunch this time around.
Excellent. I would just like to say that it is, for those of you that recall, I was on the ballot last November and August, and it has been the greatest honor of my life to be able to serve as your Dunn County Clerk. This is the best job I've ever had. I love it very passionately, and I'm so thrilled that the voters allowed me to continue to work with you for at least the next 4 years. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Criminal Justice Collaborating Division, Sarah. Oh, I'm sorry, Sheila.
Me out many times above and beyond, and I appreciate everything that you do, and thank you for doing such a great job, and thank the rest of the office as well.
All right.
Good evening. I am Sarah Benedict. I'm the Criminal Justice Director here at Dunn County, and I'm the manager of our Criminal Justice Collaborating Division. And I'm also the coordinator of our Criminal Justice Collaborating Council. So this is the report of the council, and we'll do some highlights on the division as well. But I have with me our current chair of the CJCC, Judge Christina Meyer. So I'm going to go through just couple of brief slides, and then we'll have some comments and time for question and answers. But County Manager Corpola has taught me many things over the years, and one of them is to never pass by an opportunity to educate folks. So we're going to do a little education here with our presentation. So we're going to cover not just what we accomplished in 2024, but really kind of paint the story and tell the story of the who, what, why, where, and when of the CJCC. Let's see, how does this work? Oh, there we go. Oh, quick. Okay, so who is the CJCC? It is 22 agencies, leadership positions across the county. It does include county leaders, but then also those with the state as far as the judges are concerned. We also have other criminal justice leaders with the city, police, we've got human services, and we have 2 citizen members overall, but it is a big table, 22 members, and this is 2024. We have made some changes since then. The structure of the CJCC is our council meets quarterly. We do have an executive committee and an operations committee that meet monthly and help steer the overall CJCC. We have teams that will be developed or have been developed if we're working on special projects, and those kind of come and go as the projects change throughout the years. So the mission of the CJCC, really what we do, why we get together, is through a resolution of the county board back in 2008, and it is really to improve the effectiveness of the criminal justice system, for us to really work together as a system. When we think of a system, we think of things working together, but a lot of times we have agencies that work in isolation or in silo and have connections with each other. So this really brings us all together to work towards those ways that we can improve the system. The vision is to improve the system for all residents of Dunn County, not just those that we may see more frequently. So how do we do this? We really do this through research, through our local data collection, with evidence-based decision-making, and through evidence-based practices. So our data helps us really understand what our local criminal justice system looks like and what our crime problems are here in Dunn County. There's a lot of research, robust research, that tells us how to effectively work with individuals to that reduce crime. And then our data tells us what to focus on here locally. And then we use those evidence-based practices, and those are the ways that we can really change behavior. So a couple examples on how we use data and research here locally. Some 2024 data. So we have all of our law enforcement officers out there in the sheriff's department and the city police. They are doing a proxy short screen on people, any criminal encounter that they have out there. And what we're finding, and this is really consistent year over year over year, we've been collecting data since 2016, is that the majority of law enforcement contacts are with low risk individuals. Low risk meaning to low risk to recidivate or to repeat that crime. What the research tells us is that the less we do with those low risk individuals, the better outcomes that we have. And the more that we focus our resources on the medium risk and the high risk, that's how we're really going to reduce the crime and improve community safety. So some examples, program examples of how we're doing that. We have law enforcement deflection and diversion. We have the sheriff's office doing that. We have the city police doing that. The DA's office has a pre-charge diversion program. So this is really for those first-time low-risk offenders that have committed some sort of offense. But the research tells us that they will most likely self-correct or just take that punishment per se and move on and not do that again. Most of us would be probably low risk, meaning if we got our hand slapped for doing something, we're probably not going to do that again. But those that have more contact and more interactions with the criminal justice system, have more episodes in the county jail or even prison, that increases the criminality and that increases the challenges that we have with folks. So looking at our data again, we have law enforcement data here that shows And that this is the same information. So 2024 law enforcement encounters, we're seeing that nearly 50% of all of those contacts are substance abuse related. Alcohol or drugs or paraphernalia are the offense, the main offense that is going on. We look at our pretrial assessment data. So that's our criminal justice assessor that's going into the jail and meeting with individuals that are booked and held for a bond hearing to go in front of the court the next day. 75% of those individuals have what would be a mental health diagnosis. 85% have a problematic substance use disorder that the average is severe. So that's the population that we're seeing coming through our criminal justice system. So that is why we, again, using research, using the science, using what we know locally, try to apply that. There's science behind these factors. Criminogenic factors is kind of an academic term, but these are these factors that correlate with crime. So the more we can reduce these impacts, these needs, the risk is reduced. Criminal history, we can't change that. Antisocial personality patterns, those are patterns that are going on over time. Pro-criminal attitudes, pro-criminal associates. So those are what gets reinforced when people are incarcerated. Family, marital status, problems at home, problems with the family, criminality within the family. Leisure, what are people doing with their free time? You know, there's the saying that, you know, idle hands, right? There's some truth to that. School and work participation, those that don't do well in school or don't have a good experience on the job, those factors are correlated with crime. And then substance use disorders. So substance use disorders is something that we can see, we can measure, we can treat. So that's why we do spend a lot of our time and effort with treatment-based programs. So here we have our local programs that are really pretrial services. Again, the person that's going into jail and meeting with people. We're talking about treatment right at that point in time. We're making referrals to community-based treatments, jail treatment, other programs. We have the treatment opportunity to program. We have treatment court, family treatment court, and we got jail treatment services. There we go. Did it skip? Sorry, I'm going to go back. What is going on? A delay. Okay. Okay, so where does this happen? Where does the Criminal Justice Collaborating Council come into play? All sorts of places. So a lot of people say, I'm the Criminal Justice Collaborating Council. No, I'm the one that gets people together to make the decisions, to look at the data, and then we implement those. But we have, as I mentioned, the city police participating. We've got the sheriff's office doing deflection. They're doing treatment court. They're doing treatment in jail. We've got the district attorney's office participating. We've got human services. We've got my division, the Criminal Justice Collaborating Division, which is 4 people. The rest of this is done in other agencies or with other agencies to really deliver these programs. And then certainly we have the courts with our treatment court, family treatment court, but this also encompasses the clerk of courts. Most of the CJCC agencies participate in some manner with a lot of these different programs. This is an illustration really of the system and how we've developed programs all across the system to really give opportunities for people, that 50%, right, that have substance use disorder, that give opportunities to address that. So we have our law enforcement out front doing deflection, so keeping people out of the criminal justice system. There's unhoused individuals that are out there that need help, right? Calling the police and taking them to jail and then creating a criminal matter out of trespassing or disorderly conduct or having paraphernalia in their pocket when there's other issues going on don't necessarily serve our community's best interest. So there's deflection efforts. So a lot of our more recent grants have come from state opioid settlement dollars for law enforcement to do this kind of work. the proxy, just an example, that's where law enforcement are out there using a tool to help them make a decision. Do I really need to take this person into jail? Or can I give them a citation so they can appear for court and have that case move forward? So really tools for law enforcement to help them make decisions. We got pretrial services going into the jail, doing assessments that are voluntarily based, and then pretrial risk assessments and sending that information to our defense and our prosecution and our judges so they can make informed decisions. We've got a pre-charge diversion program out of the DA's office. First-time low-risk offenders are really giving an opportunity to follow through with some activities and show that they're law-abiding and those charges are not filed. So those give young people opportunities to not ruin their lives, right? Because a criminal record can affect your employment, your education, all sorts of things. So when we see those first-time offenders, those really are opportunities to correct them. If they come back through the system, then those charges kind of are reinstigated again. We got the treatment opportunity program. That is a diversion, post-charge diversion, so it goes through the court system. And then there's an agreement that they'll take part in treatment and drug testing and case management. And after a period of 6 to 12 months, if they do well, those charges are dismissed or they're reduced. We have treatment and jail services. As mentioned, we've got a substance use counselor that's grant funded that works through the sheriff's office in the jail. She's there providing services because the majority of people in jail have substance use disorders. So it makes sense to put a substance use counselor in there. We're also providing medication assisted treatment. So that's FDA approved medications for opioid use disorder. They're getting that initiated in the jail. So when they get released, they're less likely to have an overdose if they're an opioid use disordered individual. We've got treatment court. Treatment court and family treatment court are really at the deeper end of the system. Those are for the high risk, high need individuals that have cycled through the system over and over and over and over again. And really seeing that treatment is the driver. And if we have treatment, sustained long-term treatment, people can get better and their families get better, our community gets better. So all across the spectrum, we have criminal justice programs, but these aren't done in a vacuum. We have on the top the peer support that's out there in the community, certified peer support specialists. Here in Menominee, we have the Kaleidoscope Center. We have like one of 5 peer-run centers in the state. We're lucky to have that. So we're using some of our grant money to ensure that their hours of operation are broader, so people that are struggling or in need can go down there and get support and assistance by other people in recovery. Treatment, that's community-based treatment. That's our providers out there doing substance use treatment, mental health treatment. And all these things that we're focused on are evidence-based, meaning they're proven to be effective. We're putting our funding where it's effective overall. So why do we do all this stuff? It's because systems work better when they're working collaboratively, that professional judgment is enhanced with knowledge and information. And that our decisions are better when we're using knowledge and research and information. So what we're trying to do is back to our mission. We're trying to reduce recidivism, increase community safety, and we're doing that largely through all sorts of programs across the criminal justice system to really improve it. By us working together in the last 10 years, we brought in over $4 million to Dunn County. These created jobs, these created services, paid for services out in the community. But $4 million that our community wouldn't have if we didn't have a CJCC that was functioning and working together and really identifying areas that, yes, this makes sense for us to do. Let's see if we can get some funding to do that. So all of these grants are competitive. These aren't just like, here you go, here's some money, do this. We had to, as a system, really say, yes, this is what we want. This is the support. Get the support across the system in order to get the funding, and then actually be one of the top contenders. So again, this is just an illustration of some of the grants that we have, but we've been able to make a huge impact working collectively and collaboratively. So at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Judge Meyer to say a few words.
Sarah didn't tell me what I was supposed to say. When we were coming here, I said to her, you got to tell me what to say, and she didn't. So the one thing I do have to say, though, is we're lucky to have Sarah. Without Sarah, I don't know how we'd get this much money. We'd be coming to the county board to get money. We wouldn't be this organized. We wouldn't be what we're doing. I would put it in different words than Sarah put it in. My words are, what do we want these people to do, and how do we get them to do it? And what we want them to do is be sober. So if they're sober, they quit committing crimes. And how do we get them to do it? We have all these programs that Sarah pointed out to you to get us there. And not all of them succeed. That's the way with alcoholism and drug abuse is there's relapses and those type of things. But there are people that do succeed. And I run family treatment court. And we have had a number of people, I didn't pull those numbers. We have had a number of people that have gotten their kids back. Children are better off if they're raised by their parents. Just straight up, they're better off if they're raised by their parents. And if they're sober parents, then the children are safe. And so every kid that we return home through family treatment court, we hope their parents are sober, assumably at the time we return them, and hopefully they stay that way. If they don't, we have had people that come back into the program, work on it again. I don't know if there's any questions. By the way, I am the chair. It took me a long time to figure out what the name of that was. I decided that we could just call me Grand Poobah of the Criminal Justice Collaborating Council. I'm the chair for this year and next year. Are there any questions?
Supervisor Story.
I just wanted to echo again the same kind of thing. We're very, very lucky to have these individuals. I think it was approximately 10 years ago when we voted as a board to have this diversion court. And there were some concerns about whether we were going to do okay with that. And thanks to Sarah, she is gold. She's grade A. She's A+. And without her work, we would be where we are at. I should also note that I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, you two, you've had state accolades and national accolades for all the work that you've done in our county. We're nationally recognized and state recognized, and you've been invited to speak in both areas because of the work that you've done and the model that we have. Am I correct in that? Yeah. Okay. So again, thank you very much for what you do, and don't go anywhere.
So one of the things I do want to say is that people compare the recidivism rate out of drug treatment court to 0, right? They say, look at the recidivism rate. It's not 0. But these are people that would have gone to prison. And so the true test is what's the recidivism rate as people come out of prison compared to the recidivism rate as people come out of treatment court. And I didn't bring those numbers with me either, but they are lower. And so although it's not 100% effective, there is an effective rate.
Absolutely, and echoing the praise of Sarah as well. Supervisor Laufer. Hang on.
Excuse me. Yeah, I'd like to thank you as well for what you do. And maybe I missed it, but do you folks work with any of the local churches or whatever to help get these young people some spiritual help? And I can just attest to the fact that I, as a young person, started drinking when I was 14 years old, and I drank just steadily until I was 42. And at the age of 42, I ended up getting saved. I haven't had a drink in 28 years, and I didn't have to go through any programs or anything. So it can be done. And I was just wondering if you folks do work with any of the churches or using the Word of God on the people to help them.
Yes, we do. You'll often hear that substance abuse or addiction is a spiritual challenge as well. So we don't, there are separation of church and state, and there's some clear laws on that. So we can't mandate that church interaction. But for our treatment court, we do have faith-based individuals that come and meet people, work with people, give comments to that. We also have with our law enforcement deflection activities with Project Hope. There's a lot of church donations that come in through that. And we work hand in hand with Kaleidoscope Center downtown to really broaden that. But yes, and then, you know, even for family treatment court and treatment court, we require so many community activities. Church activities are something that's absolutely approved and we approve of. Because the idea is too, people are in isolation if they're drinking, or they might have a small group if they're using drugs. But, you know, get clean, get sober, get rid of all your friends. People are isolated. So the more we can get them connected with church groups, with other healthy peer groups, with other community activities that are going on, the greater chance that they're going to feel part of the community and start to get healthier and healthier and healthier. So excellent point that you're making on that faith-based connection. And yes, we want to support that as much as we can.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Hagan.
Hi, thank you. This term on the board, I've been trying to get out there and talk with my neighbors and whatnot and just try to be a little bit more active in that department. And I've talked with a few people and they've been kind enough to give me case numbers so that I could verify what they've been saying and everything. But I just wanted to highlight a few stories that I've heard from around my neighborhood. First one was someone suffering from a mental health crisis. They said that they never had any contact with the behavioral health officer. They never knew that there is one in the county. And they said when they were arrested, there was no mental health treatment option from them, for them from the DA at that time. Another person was suicidal, and they said they were separated from their support network without any resources given to help them. A third person said they were a victim of a crime and they became homeless through the court process. And then another person said that when they were trying to apply for jobs, they were being denied because they had an open case against them. And they asked, where is my presumption of innocence in that case? And actually going back to the victim of the crime who became homeless, they said, and I quote, "If I knew what was going to happen, I wouldn't have called for help." And that's tragic to hear. And I love all the programs that you're doing and everything, but there's some serious either missteps, donut holes, potholes, just some issues that aren't being covered. And those are areas that I think seriously need to be looked at. As for how and what that looks like, I don't have any answers for that, but I really just wanted to bring forth from what I've been hearing from people.
Appreciate that. And you had examples of why we are doing the work that we're doing, because there's holes, there's gaps, there's treatment that is not what we would like to see. And I guess I'm not here to defend all the different programs, but the behavioral health officers aren't those crisis responders. That's a different system. And a lot of these programs, the agencies or officers can take it or leave it, right? So they have the discretion to make the decision and follow through. So if they call a behavioral health officer, that's a different route, but that individual officer is making those decisions. The DA's office, those attorneys are making those decisions. So those are some horrible examples of how the system, connecting with the system, had bad outcomes. But that's why we're working together to really improve that across the system. So thank you for bringing that forth.
Absolutely. And whatever help that we can assist in helping our neighbors, you know, we're all for that. So thank you.
Anyone, Supervisor? Nope. I believe that's it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to us.
Next up, child support, Josie.
Good evening. I'm Josie LaLiberty, Child Support Director, and I will draw your attention to the screen for a short, under 3-minute video that Dan's going to hit play on.
We understand that you may have questions about the Child Support Program. What is it, and how does it work? Basically, child support is payments that one parent makes to either the child's other parent or legal guardian to help with the costs of raising a child. Parents and guardians can receive services from their local child support office. Here are the top services the program offers. Open a child support case. Locate the other parent. Establish parentage. Establish a support order. Set up payment. Enforce the support order. And review the order. To open a child support case, you'll need to complete an application with your local child support office. And if you receive help from the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families program, also referred to as TANF, check with your local child support office to see if a child support case is already open. The first thing we need to know is where the other parent lives or works. There's no guarantee we'll find the other parent, but the more information you provide, like the other parent's date of birth and social security number, the easier it'll be. After we find the parent, then we can establish parentage, if it hasn't already been established. Next, we can establish the child support order and determine the amount of payment. We use child support guidelines to calculate how much a parent should contribute to the child's financial support. If you already have a child support order, we don't need to establish a new one. The most common way we set up payment is to deduct the payment from the parent's paycheck and distribute the money to the other parent or guardian. It's an easy way to make and keep a record of child support payments. When the parent doesn't pay the full amount or doesn't pay at all, we use enforcement remedies like withholding child support from paychecks, unemployment, or workers' compensation benefits, intercepting income tax refunds, and reporting delinquent child support payments to credit reporting bureaus. Either parent can ask their local child support office to review their child support order 3 years after the order is set. They can also request a review before the 3 years if they experience substantial changes in circumstances, like job loss or incarceration. We hope this answered some of your questions about child support. To learn more, contact your state or tribal child support office. Produced by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services at taxpayer expense.
That last line's my favorite. Show of hands, after watching that video, who has a better understanding of the work we do in the Child Support Agency? Oh, good. Because I really wonder how impactful that video actually is. So if you think of a child support case on a timeline, we can get involved at any point, but as early as pregnancy, all right, and establish a support order, enforce that order through graduation or age 19, whichever, or 18 with a diploma or 19, whichever occurs first. But then we'll keep the case open to collect any debt until the youngest child on the case turns 39. So that is a long time. So we're setting an order in the beginning. It might get reviewed periodically every 3 years or earlier based on a substantial change in circumstances up to graduation. But the rest of the time, we are enforcing the order. So what does that mean? I'm actually co-hosting a regional training here in Dunn County next month, and our icebreaker question for the group is, what did you want to be when you grew up? Because nobody grows up thinking they're going to work in a child support agency. I wanted to be a probation and parole agent, but so I was thinking, if somebody asked me, what do you do? What do you do in the child support agency? We wear a lot of hats. Sometimes we're a little bit social worker, a little bit private investigator, family therapist, financial advisor, accountant, mediator, job coach, and debt collectors. But enforcement, the word itself has a negative connotation to it that I'd really like to kind of separate ourselves from. People who owe child support aren't bad people. They're our community members. 1 in 5 children in this nation receive services through a child support agency. So it's almost everyone. So I thought today I would talk to you a little bit about, well, in enforcement too, we're not only involved, we don't service one parent or the other. We are involved, we represent the state of Wisconsin, not any individual parent. So we build relationships with both the receivers and the payers, and we do a lot of referring to other community resources, such as Department of Human Services, ADRC, Veteran Services, Vocational Rehabilitation, Workforce Resources, Chippewa Valley Literacy Volunteers, food pantries, domestic violence shelters. We are sort of a one-stop shop for getting people the services and assistance that they need that we can't help them with. But in preparation of tonight, I was thinking back on it'll be 21 years in September that I've worked in this program, and I love it. So I wanted to talk to you about my top 4 enforcement stories, I guess, in my career. The one thing I did when I was a caseworker, I didn't want the people that I worked with to only hear from me when they were doing poorly, when they were failing to meet their obligations. I wanted to recognize them when they were improving or doing well. And it was one of the best parts of my job to those people who I didn't interact with a whole lot because they made their payments on time every month. When that youngest child turned 18 and graduated, they would get a personal phone call from me and I'd say, guess what? You did it. You're done paying. I'm terminating the income withholding today. Good job. And I've had grown men cry and tell me no one ever acknowledged the right thing that I've done all these years. And so that always made me feel really good. But every once in a while, enforcement from the eyes of the recipient, it is fun to get to call someone. I did this a few months ago, and I said, hey, I just got a phone call from a private attorney who is representing your ex in a workman's comp or personal injury claim, and he was calling to verify the lien amount. And when I told him it was $27,000, he said, where do I write the check? And I said, so there's a check coming to you in a few days, and I don't want it to get stuck on your debit card. So I'd like to verify your mailing address so I can mail you a physical check so you can deposit that into an account of your choosing. And this mother sat down, and I thought she was going to pass out. I'd be like on the phone, I'm like, are you there? Okay, are you there? Hello? She called the agency back within 15 minutes to just confirm that a phone call from the Dunn County Child Support Agency was just made at my house. Said we did. We called you. We're sending you a check. Doesn't happen all the time, but that's life-changing money to people. So those are fun interactions to have. But my 3 most favorite enforcement stories are actually from my ability to help a payer out. When I worked in Eau Claire County, I became aware of I call it hijack. I think it was the state of Kansas. It might have been Missouri. Doesn't matter, but I think it was Kansas. They hijacked a California court order. Mom and child were living in Kansas. California had an order. They put that order on their system and they started collecting. And the payer moved to Wisconsin. So they sent me their payment record and the California orders, and they said, we want you to enforce this order and send us the money. So when I was looking through the paperwork, I called the worker back and I said, I can't enforce this order for you. And they said, well, why not? I said, because the order is 0. California had an order for $200 a month or whatever it was, and then it was suspended. So nothing has charged for the last 12 years. But Kansas had been taking this person's tax returns for the last decade. And that didn't sit right with me. So I called California and I said, are you aware that the state of Kansas has hijacked your order? And the first worker I talked to, that fell on deaf ears. And they said, well, that's his problem. He's going to have to figure it out. Well, what's he going to do? He filed his taxes and he didn't get the check. It went someplace else. And to me, he didn't have any recourse. So I kept at it for 9 months until that man received a refund check from the state of Kansas for $17,000. And he stood in my lobby and cried, and he said, I'm going to go buy a boat. And I said, good for you. One happened here in Dunn County just this last year. It was a fellow, if you have a child support debt, you are certified for federal tax intercept. It means you do not get to obtain or renew your passport. So this fellow had negotiated with Dunn County Child Support a good faith payment of $2,500 for us to release his passport. Come to find out, it was actually the state of Florida who was holding the passport, not us. So I tried everything to get a worker in Florida to acknowledge the payment that he had made here. And I worked at it, texts, emails, faxes, phone calls for 2 weeks. And finally, Florida said he didn't pay enough money, we're not releasing it. And that didn't sit right with me either. So I reached out to the state Bureau of Child Support in Madison, and I just said, is there anybody down there who is willing to advocate for this guy? And if not, do I have permission to do it? Because I was ready to call the Federal Office of Child Support to say, this is not fair. You know, this man deserves his passport. So the administrator of the Department of Economic Security and Bureau of Child Support called me. I mean, that's like if Oprah called you, like that's a big deal. It really is. And she said, I'm traveling today, but I'm going to make a call. I'll keep you posted. And she emailed me from the plane an hour and a half later. This woman accomplished in an hour and a half what I couldn't do in 2 weeks, but she got Florida to say, we'll release the passport. But that we weren't sure that he was going to get his passport because it's still a timing thing. And he had a trip planned. So he was supposed to be leaving on a Friday. On the Wednesday before he was leaving, he drove to the State Department office in Minneapolis. And I said, you call us when you leave there and let us know. And by this time, we all have his phone number memorized. So when we saw his name come in the caller ID, we said, he's calling. And the whole office gathered around a phone. And we put him on speakerphone and we said, well, did you get it? And he said, I got my passport. And we all cheered and jumped up and down and applauded for him. And he sent us pictures from Jamaica. So that was great. And now he has his passport for 10 years. So, but the one, and I've told this story many times and I get emotional every time. The one that's most impactful to me was when I worked in Eau Claire County, the receptionist phoned me and said, Josie, we have so-and-so on the phone for you, but I don't see that we have an open case with him. And I said, oh, well, I used to be his worker. The case is closed. You can put him through. So I took the phone. I said, this is Josie. And he was weeping. And I said, what's going on? And he said, I have relapsed on methamphetamines. I'd been sober for 10 years and I relapsed and I didn't know who else to call. And he called me. So we do impact our community. We are collecting money from one parent and giving it to another. But I also like to think that, it's more than that. So, thanks. Any questions?
Supervisor Hagan.
Hi, thank you. I know a couple of years ago, I got a hold of you for a coworker of mine in Trempealeau County at the time who was having issues there with making a payment through a third-party system. And I know when we talked, you said that different counties have different systems and whatnot, but you gave great advice that I was able to pass along to them and have them actually get all that issue sorted out. So even though not in Dunn County and whatnot, your services were still very useful to my coworkers. So I want to thank you again for that.
You're welcome. Making payments is tough. There's a lot of different ways to do it. Our system is old. It's like 30 years old. So paying electronically is not built into the system in any way. So it's all these piecemealed things and it gets complicated. But yeah, call your local child support agency. We'll help.
Supervisor Lyon.
Josie, I just want to say thank you for sharing the stories. As a former journalist, I understand very well the importance of not just giving the data. It's putting the face on the data, and you did it so well. Thank you.
Supervisor Vandermeulen.
It's wonderful to hear a government worker passionate about doing justice.
Supervisor Thomas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too would like to applaud you as a longtime educator and seeing the wide array of family situations. I know how difficult, or I shouldn't say I know, I have a pretty good idea how difficult it is. So thank you for all your work.
Supervisor Burnt.
Thank you, Chairman. I would also like to say thank you. My parents are divorced, and so my mom had to go through the whole process, and thankfully my parents are a lot more amicable than most. But if it wasn't for people like you, I probably wouldn't be here. So thank you.
That makes two of us. That would appear to be it. Thank you so much. All right, 10B, 2025 budget amendments, sheriff, DHS, and health. This is the typical money comes in, money goes out. We have to keep it all sorted. So for starters, does anyone have clarifying question? Oh, Supervisor Bauer. I will hold you to that in just a moment. Anyone have any clarifying questions? All right, now I would need a motion. Supervisor Bauer moves. Oh, Supervisor Jetson seconds. All right, any speaking to the motion? Seeing none, a second call for speaking. All right, we are ready to vote. You have the matter before you. This is a budget amendment. We are adjusting our language. So this will be a roll call.
The supervisors present would tap their screen to indicate the start of the vote. You can vote on your microphone. In lieu of that, Supervisor Quinn, how do you vote?
Yes.
Supervisor Quinn votes yes. Thank you for that.
Motion passes. All right. Item 10C, resolution to add opioid defendants. You've also seen several of these as they have come by. The WCA wanted us to move on this one very quickly because the defendant is being very aggressive in their legal strategy. So they wanted us to get this through our system as quickly as possible. I would need a motion. Supervisor Hagan moves, Supervisor Story seconds. Are there any clarifying questions?
Just one simple.
Sure.
Okay.
Yes, Supervisor Hedlund.
One simple one. Is the list the old list or current list? And these are being added to that? Is that correct?
That is correct.
Thank you.
And that's the defense. They're just simply saying that Dunn County, along with a bunch of other counties, never authorized the attorneys to represent Dunn County against them.
All right. Any speaking to the motion? Second call for speaking. All right, you have the matter before you in your packet. Time to vote. All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes. On to item 11, consideration of reports, resolutions, and ordinances coming to the county board from the standing committees. Item A, planning resources development, request for rezone PA to GAA Hellman. I would need a motion and a second. Supervisor Kinnear and Supervisor. Well, it's you or Diane. All right, you got it?
Yep.
Supervisor Wilsey is the second. Any speaking, sorry. First, are there any questions for clarification? Seeing none, any speaking to the motion? Nope. All right, a second call. Any speaking to the motion? All right, then we are ready to vote. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion passes. 11B, Highway Committee Resolution, Highway Traffic Safety Plan. I would need a motion in a second. Supervisor Prochnow moves, Supervisor Burnt seconds. Are there any questions? All right, you got the matter before you. First call for debate. All right, second call for debate. I guess we are ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Item 12, announcements. Our next meeting will be June 18th of 2025. The clerk appears to have an announcement as well.
In front of you is the Wisconsin Counties Association Annual Conference handout flyer. If you are interested in attending, it's September 21st to the 23rd at the Kalahari Resort in the Wisconsin Dells. If you're interested, please take this with you and fill it out right now and return it to me so I can get you registered. It is a quick turnaround this time. Registration is due by next week on Friday because the hotel block opens on Monday, June 2nd. So if you're interested in attending this conference, please let me know as soon as possible. You can also register after May 30th, and I will do my best to make sure you get a hotel room.
All right, that appears to be it. We are adjourned.
Chris.
Yeah. 18 minutes.
You'll claim it. I'll call it a tie.
No, because we were supposed to be all going over.
Chris is looking along, the river meeting will be on the Wednesday here. Keep watching the clock. And it takes one. Be adjourned.
Does he got something more to say? Nothing.
Yeah, I just go.
2 minutes, KG.
Dan proved it.
It was Jim. Jim won.
Dan helped prove it to you that I wasn't trying to slack off today when I didn't get PVB done, which I felt really dumb during that training meeting because I'm sitting there with a weight screen. And I did it before, then I restarted it right before the meeting started, like, well, maybe it'll work now, and it didn't work.
Yeah. Technology.
Any questions on what you see on screen? Yeah,
Yeah, I see nothing. I've got nothing.
Be quiet.
Really?